Okay, so Shalom Aleichem. I just want to welcome everyone also that's watching V'ezrat Sham from wherever we are. It's a tremendous chut to get together to learn Divrei Rabbeinu, and just to get warmed up with a niggin, we'll sing one of the classic Breslov nigunim that they sing. Mi tain li ever kayayna ofat yana kadashomana. Mi tain li ever kayayna yana kadashomana. Na na ya la la ya ya yomana la la also Leilu Nishmat, my father of youre, Reuven ben Mashiach, Hashem Essence. Any other names you want to add?
Masud Herzl ben Asher.
Masud Herzl ben Asher, Hashem Essence. So first of all, I just want to say there's this new sefer that I got. It's an unbelievable sefer that just came out, Mikchot Shel Tzadik, that gives you like real yesodot in Breslov Chassidut of how to learn the Torah, how to live your life according to what Rabbeinu is telling us, and he speaks in a language that everyone can understand. It's like we were talking about how before that the language of Likutei Moharan, how it's in a certain sense it's a little bit tricky. It's very difficult in a certain sense because Rabbeinu hides a lot of information in very few words. And especially in the Torah that says Lashon Rabbeinu, which is the Torah that we're doing, Lamed Gimel, is very, very, every word could be weighed out, like he said, like a pasuk. So this is written in a different way that you can really sit down and try to absorb and understand what Rabbeinu is saying, even in a short amount of time. Like one of the chapters I remember specifically, he speaks about Hitzbodedut, and how there's certain foundations, that really could help us. Just to mention a few, that he says that Hitzbodedut is a time where it's based on three yesodot, three hanhagot that a person practices, that a person could come to when he does Hitzbodedut, which is essentially just speaking to Hashem, setting that time to talk to Kadosh Baruch Hu in your own language. And he says Yishuv Hadat, Mishpat, and Lefaresh Sichato. Yishuv Hadat means to have a settled mind, to sort of take yourself out of all of your practices and your hanhagot and your actions, and to just sort of let's say whatever it is, to put your cell phone aside and to just focus just between you and Hashem, and to think about your actions in the past few days, to look at them, to see where you are, sort of like a meditation. That's what it means, Yishuv Hadat. And then he says Mishpat is then to sort of wait, to judge a certain sense. Like if I'm acting is that the right way to act? Is that bringing me to my goal, my tachlit? And then he says the other yesod is Lefaresh Sichato, to speak about everything, to be able to talk to Kadosh Baruch Hu about everything that you're going through, right? Whether good, whether whether difficult, and to be able to pour your heart out in front of Hashem. That's really the goal. So Rebbe Nachman especially says that his yesod is, if there's one thing that you could take away with all of my teachings, it's what? To talk to Hashem, to just sit and speak to Hashem, like not to, let that opportunity go by. Anyway, so we're going to be doing Bezrat Hashem Torah Lamed Gimel, so let's go to the beginning, Bezrat Hashem of this Torah. Let's go step by step. So the Torah starts off with, Mi ha'ish shechafetz chaim ohev yamim lirot tov. Who is a man that desires life, who loves days to see good? Aleph, haklal hu, I'll go a little bit quicker because we did this before. Haklal hu shetzarech levakesh shalom. The general rule is that we have to seek peace. Sheyesh shalom ben Yisrael, that there should be shalom between all the Jewish people. V'sheyesh shalom lechol adam b'midotav, that there should be shalom within every person, within their characteristics. Hainu shelo yeh mechulak b'midotav mirotav, that a person should not be divided with his midot or his occurrences. Shelo yeh lo chiluk ben betivo ben ba'ako, there shouldn't be a difference, whether good or for bad. Whether if, something's going tremendously successful, whether if it's going not like the way he wanted to. It should be even. It should always be Tamid Yimtza Bo Hashem Yitbarach. It should always be that you're serving Hashem, that you're finding Hashem in every situation. You're using that opportunity to come closer to Hashem. If it's good, you're thanking Hashem and you're praising and you're using that as a springboard. And if it's difficult, you're saying that it's from Hashem and you have a emunah and you're really believing that it's in every situation you're finding Hashem. Hainu. Like what the pasuk says, Ba'Hashem ha'alel davar, Ba'Elokim ha'alel davar. That I will praise Hashem in Yud Kei Vav Kei, and I will praise Hashem in Elokim. Yud Kei Vav Kei means situations of chesed, and Elokim is midot of din. How do we find Hashem in situations of life, whether good or for bad? Through two vital ingredients that are called shalom. Al yidei haTorah hanikret shalom, through Torah that's called shalom. Shalom, as it says, all of its paths are peace. And through tzaddikim, that have been given the covenant of peace. And because of this, you could love peace in all places. Hen betivo, hen ba'aka, whether good or whether for bad. V'yachol liot shalom ben Yisrael. There could be love and peace between all the Jewish people. V'lehov zeh et zeh, and one can love, and people can love one another through these two vital ingredients. Now, obviously, Rabbeinu is not just talking about how to get along with another Jew. That's also part of it, to reach shalom. But he's talking about shalom on a greater scale, shalom within ourselves also, within our own characteristics, that we should have peace. To reach a global shalom, Bezrat Hashem, everyone has to sort of take those steps to look within themselves too, and to make that, Bezrat Hashem, that peace within ourselves. So this is the whole, really, essence of the whole Torah. I was speaking with, I saw Yosef Karduner at a wedding last night, and we were just sitting down and talking about this lesson, and how he was saying that really the whole lesson is really wrapped up into Aleph. But now Bet is expounding on that, and how do we get to that? How do we really reach that? Seemingly it's a completely different topic, but we're going to see how it's all connected. Bet. A person has to know that Hashem's presence is filled in this world, that there's nowhere that's void of His glory. There is no place that's void of Him. And He fills all the worlds, and He surrounds all the worlds. And even in someone that works, that does work with the nations of the world, he cannot say to himself that I can't serve Hashem because of all the heaviness and the physicality and the coarseness that falls upon me, because I'm constantly involved with business with them. Because already our Chachamim have already taught us that in all physical things, and with all the languages of the nations, you can find godliness within there. Because without godliness, it won't have any existence whatsoever. As it says, that you give life to all of them, to every situation. The Kodesh Baruch Hu is giving life constantly. Besides from the fact that this godliness that's found there, it's in tremendous constriction. It's there, but it's within tremendous, it's like mamish, like coming in, like almost like an infrared. It's going in a way that it's so hard to see Hashem on the outside, but it's giving all of its chiyus, it's in the inside. B'miut, with a tremendous constriction, very little, like the inyan of mayim achronim, like people use very little, like Rebbe Nachmans, like when it came to mayim achronim, like very little mayim achronim. Why? It's the inyan of like you're giving chiyus to the other side. You're giving something. You don't give too much. Like that's the inyan of like getting drunk on Purim, like Rabbi says later, like till you come to the difference, you don't know the difference between Mordechai and Haman. That whole inyan is so that it's giving chiyut to the other side, but just in order for it to exist and not anymore. It's symbolizing that act of creation that Kodesh Baruch Hu is doing in all these places that are seemingly void of godliness. It's betzimtzum. Rak kedei chiyuno lachayot velo yoter, to give it life, and that's it. Can you fill me in? Because the Kodesh Baruch Hu constricts his godliness in all places. We're talking about how Kodesh Baruch Hu is filling all of the places, even that's void of godliness, and the nature of that godliness that's being shined there is just very constricted. It's in a very tzimtzum, just to give it life and not more, because Hashem doesn't want to give it too much light, God forbid, too much life source. Hashem is constricting his godliness, betzimtzumim rabim v'shonim, in tremendous constrictions, from the beginning of like the most highest place of holiness, he's constricted himself until this physical entity right here, right now. This table, this mamish, this chair, everything that's giving chiyus. Shesham midor klipot, in this physical world, it's a world of klipot. So meaning even in most places that's void of godliness completely. Like Bar Minan, somewhere, like in Vegas somewhere, like its existence is completely coming from a Kodesh Baruch Hu. And Rebbe Nachmans saying, but just for us to understand, that just the nature of that godliness, it's going through a lot of constrictions. The whole time that the godliness comes down, it gets more constricted. The godliness becomes more enclosed with different layers. This is what our sages have taught us in the Gemara, that somebody that's smart will understand. Rebbe Nachmans says, right? That in all physical things, yesh elokuto v'chiyuto, there is godliness, there is a life source in all physical things. I remember that I was once the Skulener Rebbe, Alav Shalom. He was one of the oldest Rebbes in Borough Park. Right? He came to like 5 towns for one Shabbos, and it was like such a gewaldig Shabbos. Like I never saw 5 towns like that. Like mamish, like guys clean shaven, with PhDs, staring at a tzaddik, like shuckling mamish, like having shrine was such a beautiful thing. And then in the middle, like I remember, like it was Motzi Shabbos. All of a sudden, Motzi Shabbos, like the Skulener Rebbe, like, he asks, one of the Gabbai says, does anybody have a cigarette for the Rebbe? And then, like, nobody had a cigarette because it was Shabbos. So I remembered I had in the car, like, I'm like, I had like a pack in the car or something like that. So I'm like, I have one. So then they're all like, okay, yeah, great. So then I go and I get the cigarette and I come back and I give, and they're like, wait till the Rebbe's ready. It was after like a niggin, and then all of a sudden the Rebbe looks over and then they give him the cigarette and they were going to light it for him, but then they were like, no, you should light it for him. Like, let him light it because I'm like, okay, fine. So I lit it for the Rebbe, and then they start singing this niggin. The Rebbe didn't even inhale. He just lit it. He had it, maybe it's like 2 puffs, but he didn't really, just held it by his hat for a while he's singing this niggin. And then, and then after that, there was like cigarette shrine, which is like the interesting thing. A bunch of people like waiting to try to take a puff from the same stogie that the Rebbe smoked from. But like the bottom line is, like, I asked the chassid, I'm like, what's going on? How come the Rebbe like lights up a cigarette once he Shabbos? He doesn't look like a smoker, So then he said that he said when the Rebbe once said when he was in the Shoah, in the Holocaust, it was Motzi Shabbat one time, and they wanted to do Havdalah, and they didn't have anything to make Borei Moreh Eshan, and I guess Besamim also, if you like the smell of the tobacco, and like they got a cigarette from one of the guards, and Zecher out of Hakarat Tov for the tobacco that like they were able to make Borei Moreh Esh, and out of he lights up a cigarette Motzi Shabbat. It's to recognize that there's chiyus elokut in every physical thing, in every single physical thing. Mamish, like you're drinking a soda, but you mamish, you have in mind like elokus and godliness, and this, and it should give you chiyus to learn better. Then the soda can actually be uplifted and come to madrig of elokus mamish. Yesh elokus v'chiyus, obviously to drink healthy things and to eat healthy things. Obviously, the Torah commands us as much as we can. But I'm saying in everything that we do, whatever we're eating, whatever we're drinking, whatever we're doing in our business, in our actions, at home, like it says, tat bekatvi shtaim. We said, the word, it says in Tefillin, it says latotafot. It says vayu latotafot ben enechas. What does the word latotafot mean? It's really two words. Right? Tat and pat. Tat bekatvi in Caspian is shtayim, and pat ba'afriki shtayim. You have the place? Lehodia, this is in order to make it known, shebechol lashon ha'akum, that in all the languages of the nations, yesham elokut ha'mechayota. There's godliness that gives it life at all situations. That's why in our tefillin, there's also these languages of the other nations also. So it's vital that we understand this in order to get the rest of the Torah. So it says in Masechet Yerushalmi, it says, Im yomar lecha adam. If somebody comes up to you in the street and he tells you, Heichan Elokecha, where is your God? Right? We're in Bet, in the middle of Bet. If somebody asks, where's your God? Tomar lo, you should answer him. What? Bekrach gadol sheberomi. In the great city of Rome. What's Rome? What was Rome? Rome was the most barbaric, immoral place in the world. It was mamish a place, like gladiator wars, like mamish, really, really terrible things. So when he's asking you a question, you're saying, what? Where's Hashem? You tell me he's in Rome? You tell him mamish in the lowest of all places? What's pshat? So he says, Rebbe Nachmans says, Shneimar, by the way, the rest of the Gemara just quotes, it says, Shneimar, it says, a lie korem Seir, that Hashem called out to me from Seir, which is the mountain, the area that's attributed to Esav, exactly, Edom. So Nimsa Shezeh Adam Sheshoel, this person that asks you, you see his words, what Rabbeinu is saying? This person that asks you, Heichan Elokecha, where is your God, right? For sure, he's in the klipas. The guy that's asking, he said, Heichan Elokecha, where is your God? He's saying, Heichan Elokecha, where is your God? It's like in the Haggadah, where the Rasha asks, right? Hashem gave you, but not me. He took himself out of the picture. So he's demonstrating he is in the klipot right now. I'm not with Hashem. I don't exist with Hashem. Hashem's not in my life. I'm not in Hashem's life.
This could be a yid even, right?
Yeah, yid. Unfortunately, most of the times, yeah. He takes himself out of the picture. He thinks that a person doesn't want to live with any type of guilt. Guilt is it could be very damaging to live with that, to live with pain of that you're not accomplishing what you should be and so on and so forth. So it's a lot easier sometimes for a person to say, you know what, I'll just take a policy that I just don't believe in this. You know what I mean? I don't believe in that. I don't subscribe. That's not my belief. So why should I, have to hold myself accountable for mitzvot and chas v'shalom kafar beikar. She'amar, right, this whole path of rationalization. She'amar heichan elokecha, where is your God? V'nidmelo, Rebbe Nachmans says, shebemekomo in Sham elokom. It seems to him that seems to us sometimes that God doesn't exist where we are. Bechein tomarlo, therefore you should answer him, afilu b'mekomecha, even in your place, shata meshuka b'medora klipot, that you exist in a realm of klipot. Gam kin sham tuchal limtso elakuto, even over there you could find Hashem, even in the lowest of all places. Ki hu mechaya et hakol, because he gives chiyas to everything, everything. Kemo shekatuv, as it says in the pasuk, v'ata mechaya et kulam. Right, we say it every day. Vayavarech David. Umisham ata yachol ledabek et atzmo bo yitbarach. From that, like machshava, you can attach yourself to Hashem anywhere. You know, I know Mamish Bali Tshuva that told me, I'm telling you, they said that one of the highest points of their spiritual life was when they were in such a low place and they realized, they're like, I want to be with Hashem, and they just took like the next opportunity to do a mitzvah, like they ordered a Coke at the bar and they just said shahakol literally for like a half hour, like screaming like a sham, you know, with all their lungs, you know, like they're telling me like they wish they could say their brachot with such kavana, like now, like years later, they're like from, you know what I mean? And they're like, wow, remember those days, you know? Why? Because like you have to realize something's going on. You have to realize Hashem, first of all, is everywhere. And Rebbe Nachmans is going to explain now the mechanics of exactly how that works. That's the beauty of Likutei Moharan. It's not just like, okay, that's nice, Hashem's everywhere. Rebbe Nachmans is like, what's the deal? Like, what's the nature of the letters of Torah that's in that place? And how can you catch them when you go there? Let's say you're doing business someday and you're like in some like mamish low place. What are you going to do? There's chiyas that's there. There's letters of Torah that's there. How do you attach it? Rebbe Nachmans is going to give you the advice of how to like mamish, that you could be in the lowest of places like Yosef at Tzaddik and mamish be in the highest of all levels. You could grow tremendously close to Hashem. Okay, so where were we? Yeah, so therefore you should tell that person that's asking you, where's your God? When you tell him it's in the great city of Rome, you're telling him, even where you are, even in the place where Shatam Meshuka B'Medora Klipas, that even the place you're filled with Klipas, like your mamish, like you feel like there's so much Tumah in your life, Gam Kain Sham Tuchal Limtso Lakuso, over there you could find Hashem also. Ki hu mechayes hakol, because Hashem is giving chiyas to everything. Kemo shekatuv, like we said, v'ata mechayet kulam, misham ata yachol ledabek et atzmo bo yitbarach. From there you could attach yourself to Hashem, v'lashuv elav b'tshuva shlema. You come to the level of Tishuva shlema. Ki lo rachoka mincha, because Rabbeinu says, because it's not far from you. Living and being close to Hashem, it's not something that's off the grid. It's not something that's so far. It's mamish where you are. Ella bimkomcha, in your place. You know, the word teshuvah means like tashuv, to return, right? So it's really, really like a lot of people think, Rabbi also said this, a lot of people think like doing teshuvah means I have to change, become someone else. I don't want to become someone else. Teshuva, that's not what it means. It doesn't mean becoming someone else. It means being the best you could be. Being the best version of you that you could be. Being the most integral you that you could be. Being the most loving you could be. Being the most giving, being the most caring. That's what really Teshuva means. So he says, Sham Rubble Elavushim. Just the only thing you have to know is that the further you are away from Hashem, there's just more garments there. It's not really that Hashem's far from you. The more that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the more that you come closer to Hashem, that you grow levels. You're coming closer to Hashem. What does that mean? You could start to understand Hashem's ways in a deeper understanding. Because the more that a level is higher in holiness, there's less coverings, there's less garments. V'nitzmat tzimtzumim. There's all these constrictions. It's less. Ve'azhu mikurav yoter el Hashem yitbarach. Then you're closer to Hashem. V'yochol, and again now he's going to throw again. V'yochol, now you can love yourself. V'yochol le'ehov et atzmo im Hashem yitbarach. You can start to love yourself with Hashem. What do you think that line means? What do you think that line means? You could start to love, and what's that curveball Rabbi was throwing there all of a sudden? If you understand that Hashem's filling all the world and this, that, and like, right, there's never anywhere that's void of godliness, even if you feel like you're far, you're in the klipot, Hashem's right there with you, and then you could start to love yourself with Hashem.
The real you wants to be connected
with a stronger
to
love. You hear that?
The real you.
Because the real you wants to be connected to Hashem. Right? And then what's the problem? Because I guess we're not loving ourselves connecting to Hashem so much. Because otherwise we would a lot more. Right? You know, like I remember a friend of mine on Shabbos, like he just took a sefer and he took a few snacks and he just sat on the couch with a sefer. He looked like he was the happiest camper on the planet. He had a sefer and he had a snack and he looked like he was so besimcha, like a kid, like he mamish got like the latest Xbox. You know, he was like I was like, wow. You know what I mean? It was like such an honor to see. We have to get a geschmack from being with Hashem. We have to start getting an appreciation of ourselves when we're attached to Kodesh Baruch Hu. Hashem's helping us like realize this. What?
I was thinking it was a small little video that went viral, like this guy, Liquid. It was meant to be funny. I mean, he's like talking about like a mortal with a cold bucket of ice, seltzer water. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And he's like, this one far-ish.
Exactly. Getting a geschmack, like meaning Rebbe Nachmans saying the realization of this, of you realizing that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is filling all of the worlds, that there's never anywhere that's void of Him, and Hashem's always with you, so then you could start to love yourself with Hashem. Why? Because you find yourself in this world. You know, a lot of times we walk as Jews, let's say a Jew's walking on 47th Street in Manhattan and he's working, you know, and it's just like, why am I here? Why am I here? Like, why am I, you know, dealing with these people? Like, I just want to be sitting in the base medrash, I just want to be learning, I just want to be growing. Like, what am I doing? Rebbe Nachman's giving you like a perspective that like, no, like, hey, you have a mission. Why? Because there's mamish elokus everywhere. You have to realize that even while you're on 47th Street, there's mamish that ba'atam mechaya et kulam. All these offices, all these booths, all these, you know, all this merchandise, everything's being run from a Kodesh Baruch. Everything's mamish tachad yad Kodesh Baruch. It's being mechaya everything. From you just like understanding that, then you realize, hey, I have a purpose being here. I'm a yid that when I go into these situations, and now you're going to see, he's going to talk about it more, but by going into these situations where the letters are constricted, by you being a yid that forces your yetzer hara, you know, you direct your yetzer to serve Hashem. So he says, all of a sudden you should know these letters that are there, the mamish, it's called otiot boltot. I don't want to jump the gun, but like you'll see that the Rebbeinu speaks about that, the letters start coming out to you, and you sort of like, you take them and you now you can take their garments off and they can receive tremendous light from above. Meaning those places are waiting for a yid to come by, that's a shomer Torah mitzvah yid, so that the elokus in that place could like attach to that Jew. They're waiting. It's just like an opportunity. So
or it's all spiritual?
I'm sure like in quantum physics, like they're going to start in like an energy school, they're going to start to like someday track that like, yeah, how because there's like machines already, like, when you put on tefillin, it like measures your aura. So like they're starting to like discover, and also machines that when you say like letters of different alphabets in all the languages of the nations, it gives an image. But when they started saying Hebrew, it actually came out like the image of the aleph and bet, and otherwise we're all blobs.
Like a person who's on the people on different levels of wherever they're holding, they made a certain aura. You could see it sometimes.
Exactly. So I think he's saying also by a shomer Torah mitzvah yid walking into a place that's sort of void of godliness, the godliness that exists there within the walls, within the, that's Betzimtzum, starts to connect and starts to attach itself to you. So now you have this you have much more light than before. So when the Rabbeinu, by talking about this, you can start to also love yourself when you're walking through 47th Street, so to speak. Be like, you know what? This is a geschmack. I'm getting a geschmack from a Yid, being a frum Yid walking down a block in Manhattan and being stark, and being Shomer Torah mitzvahs, and feeling the appreciation for that. And you're like, wow, you start to love yourself with a Kadosh Baruch Hu in all situations. This Torah, somehow, he constantly relates this inyan of how finding ourselves, how we feel when we're Hashem, and Hashem how he feels when he's with us. And he relates it to even how he felt about us before he created the world. That it says, that he says that Kadosh Baruch Hu saw that the Jewish people in Machshava, they came up in his thoughts, and then Hashem decided that he's going to create the world. You have to take a look in the mirror, pal, and you have to be like, whoa, Hashem saw me, and he decided I'm going to create the world. Think about that a little bit. When you don't believe in yourself sometimes, remember that thought.
Hashem believed in us.
Look how much Kodesh Baruch Hu, 100%. Hashem gave you Bechira, and he said, you know what, you're going to find your way back to me. And not only that, but the Tomer...
the biggest stealer, because he's giving away his control, in a way.
Right. Complete control. That's why we have the merit over all the Malachim in Shemayim. Because they don't have Bechira. They have one leg, Kiviyachol, which means only one direction, one thought. We're placed in a place of Klipot, in the husks, where Hashem's presence is so constricted. What we have to put our hands over our eyes when we say Shema Yisrael. We're almost shoving our eyes in our head. Why? Because we have to close our eyes from this world. This world is a distraction against Hashem. This whole world. But if you take Rebbe Nachmans' lesson of meditating that Hashem is really everywhere, even in all the physical things, then you could take this physical world and mamish uplift it. You could take, the trees that were made to that sefer that you're shuckling over. You have no idea what it's like. It's mamish like you're connecting the Bria to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The water that you're drinking while you're learning Torah. We don't see behind the scenes. There's nitzotzot. There could be gilgulim. There could be a gilgul that's stuck there for days in a Poland Spring bottle, and he ended up in a shear. You're learning the Kutzim, it's flying into the heavens, and we have no clue. Why? Because we're stuck in ourselves and our own egos. I'm speaking for myself. You know what I mean? Mamish.
What is the Rebbe saying in contrast? A place of constriction versus a place of light, like a Beit Knesset. Is he saying there's something special in a place that is constricted that you wouldn't get in a place that's
right?
What's the contrast?
Well, no, in a certain sense that it sounds like from what the Rebbe is comparing to is that the higher in Madrega somewhere is, there's just less levushim, there's less garments that's covering it. So meaning Hashem is Hashem all the time. Right. Hashem doesn't change once. He's the Hashem Haya Hoveviyah. Right? So just what's the difference? How come when God forbid if I go to a Bar Minan place I feel so low, and how come when I go to a Bet Knesset Mishkan I feel like I'm flying, So what's the difference? It's because it's the levels of garments that's surrounding that scenario. That's all it is. So meaning that you have to believe when you go into the place that's very far from Hashem. It's sort of you're right. It's like a mission. It's now you're Mamish, a mission impossible. You're going in, Mamish, believing that.
Your mindset.
Ein od milvado. Yeah, exactly. No place that's void of His glory, and that in itself will help you to connect to Him. Should we do a little more, or should we stop here?
It's almost like you're saying Hashem looked at the Yidden before He created the world. In a way to put it
which is a pella, because really, what does that mean? Because all our strength comes from Hashem anyway.
But that's interesting because, they say when babies conceived, it's three partners, right? Hashem, and it says a woman when she comes out of the mikvah, she should look at tzaddikim, right? She shouldn't it's almost like preconception, because she has the capability of giving off to make a baby. They're already telling her to look at good things. Hashem looked at the Jews before He created the world.
Right. Mamish.
Question is, did he look at us?
And not only that He just looked, but he had pleasure from how he felt kiviyachol with us, and that feeling, and then he created the world.
Partners in conceiving.
Kiviyachol, yeah.
Kiviyachol.
I mean, this is something that's beyond our understanding. We can get on this.
That's what I was trying to draw on.
We
Like
can.
that
It's like he
concept.
gives them a shal. We read this, that he gives them a shal of like a father of the child within the father before he was conceived. It's like a tremendous yichud, like a tremendous attachment. So if we remember that, then that means we're still, even though that we're like in a physical body and everything, we're still attached. We're still, all the way.
Shama.
Exactly. Just like a child is to the father,
All these emotions are not to be taken literally. It's more of for us to understand.
You can't
Hashem really doesn't have any of these emotions.
Right, but I think but I think Rabbeinu's showing you this so that we can connect to Hashem in a certain sense, like
Our basic understanding.
What do you mean? What does that mean? Hashem doesn't have emotions.
By giving emotions to Hashem, saying Hashem gets angry, Hashem like all these things, it limits him.
Okay,
So you
but
can't limit
so
Hashem
so
because
why
it's
so why
unlimited.
do we see in the Torah? You're right, but I'm saying it's not a trick
Because-
question.
No.
Why do we see in the Torah that
I'm
Hashem
showing you-
shows anger, he shows
Because it's
kindness?
all for us to better understand.
Fine.
But it's not to be taken literally. It's all much like
No,
it's
meaning
like a
no.
parable.
Right, no. When you say not to be taken literally, meaning it did literally happen, kiviyachol, that Hashem got upset, but it's not tapping into Hashem's essence, kiviyachol, because Hashem's essence, kiviyachol, is beyond all understanding and limitation, and that's what you're saying.
I'm not sure if it really happened.
What do you
How do you
mean?
define Hashem getting angry? Then?
What do you mean? I'm
does that
saying like the
Is it
ground
possible
opened,
Hashem getting
Korach
angry?
got swallowed.
Okay.
Like it wasn't like it wasn't like
We don't know if it's really because Hashem got angry. We don't know Hashem's emotions. We don't have a pulse on
That's
God's
the
emotions.
No, but Hashem has given these sfirot in order so that we can understand Him. But He's given it. It comes from Him. Hashem created Chesed, Gevura, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yisod. These are all, as we read in Patach Eliyahu.
Mahu Rachum, Avata Rachum.
Yeah,
What do you mean?
that now we have like a premise to emulate. But these are things that Hashem represented Himself by. He showed Himself in the light of Chesed. He showed Himself in the light of Gevura, right? So even though that you're right, it's not limiting Hashem's essence, because Hashem's essence is far beyond that. But nevertheless, He did create these days and midot and Torah, like, right? These are all within the world. These are all these, like, the kalim that Hashem created is with tremendous wisdom, and there's one thing that's coming all the way from the essence, kiviyachol, and this Rebbe Nachman is saying. He's saying the love, the kiviyachol, the love of HaKadosh Baruch Hu for the Jewish people. He's saying that's something that's rooted far beyond even our understanding. You know what I mean? It's like that you can say. It's like, because Kadosh Baruch Hu Kiviyachol, He said it Himself. He called us His children. Banim etzem l'Hashem Elokeichem. Yeah.
It's not like He felt angry, right? It's just He revealed to us the attribute of anger to show us that this is what you shouldn't do.
Right.
So
The midot, in order that we can learn from them.
Yeah, a human being, if they get angry, they can lose themselves, and it's more physical. But Hashem just showed us
Right,
the revelation
obviously,
of the
right.
attribute. Yeah.
Of course. But these are all translated into also days and situations, and like, for example, you could be going through a chesed situation, you could be going through a gevura situation, chas v'shalom. How are we supposed to react? How are we supposed to? These are part of the paths. In order to be b'shalom in all your situations, you have to remember that Hashem is filling every situation in every place, and that there is no place void of godliness. Then you can start to love yourself, kiviyachol, with Hashem. Now, Gimel. V'hine yesh shnei mine yomim. There's two types of days. Yemei tov, v'yemei ra. There's good days and there's bad days. By the way, somebody came to Hillel and Sham. He said, "Teach me the whole Torah standing on one foot." Right? What does it mean, 1 foot? So Rabbi Yaakov Meir Shechter. You know Rabbi Yaakov Meir Shechter? Yeah, one of the great, one of the great Brasa Gedolin in Israel. He said in a sefer he wrote in a Perush, in Leket Amarim Chelek Bet. Over there, you have to check it out.
More?
Yeah, it's called Leket Amarim, and it's beautiful in a chapter that's called, I think it's called Ha'avar Ayin, that the past is nothing. I believe in that chapter it says over there, listen to this. He says, the guy that was coming to Hillel and Shammai using teach me the whole Torah standing on 1 foot. He says, what does it mean, teach me the whole Torah standing on 1 foot? 2 feet means it could go either direction. It could go good or bad. 1 foot meant good. I don't want situations that are difficult and you have to be stark and be a yid and have a muna and like nevertheless. I just want things that are good in my life. I want everything to be good in my life, and then, yeah, I'm down. I'll be a yid. I'll serve a Sham, Shabbos, Torah, mitzvahs, no problem.
Good and
Saying that's what he was asking.
That's what he was asking. Teach me the whole Torah standing on 1 foot with one condition. So then what happened?
He kicked him out.
Beis Shammai not only kicked him out, he says he took one of the pillars of the house, Amudei Habayit, and he picked it, like he detached it, and he chased him out with the pillar of the house. What does it mean? Rabbi Yaakov Meir Shechta said that meant because you're missing one of the pillars of what it means to be a Yid. Because it says in the pasuk, "V'erev v'boker yom echad." One day doesn't have just light. There's good times and there's tough times. Rachmana litzlan bar minan. Sometimes we go through situations that's difficult. But the whole point of that is that so that now you can be stark and use that as an opportunity to inspire other people. Why? Because Rabbi Nachman teaches, he brings over there that all the Jewish people were all connected. Right, so there's many Jews that are connected to your neshama. So when you're going through a tough situation and you're like, you know what, I'm going to be stark, I'm going to serve Hashem. So then all those Yidden that are in that situation, they're also going to have an aliyah and a tremendous breakthrough and come closer to Hashem because of you. So he says you're missing one of the fundamental elements of creation. You get out of here. That's not what being a Yid is. So he leaves, and then he comes to Beis Hillel. And what does Beis Hillel tell him?
Okay.
V'ahavta l'recha kamocha. You should love your fellow. So what does that mean? So Rabbi Yaakov Meir Shechta says, you know what he's telling him?
What?
Right.
Don't hate, whatever.
Well, Rashi says it means v'ahavta l'recha kamocha. Rashi over there says it means v'ahavta l'recha kamocha. So then he says, so he says, what was he telling him? So he's telling him, based on this principle, that the whole reason why we get inspired to serve Hashem is because of some other Jew that's being stark somewhere. That all of a sudden, like a window, I get this inspiration onto my soul. So I want to start serving Hashem and davening and learning. So he says, so the reason you too, also, even though that, it said, because converts also, they say that Rizal said they had neshamot of Jews really, but they landed in a body of a non-Jew and they had to discover that they're really Jewish, right? So he says, so you that you're a Yid, meaning you undiscovered yet, but the fact that you're coming here and you're asking is because that there's some other Jew somewhere that he also had sveikus and doubts in his Judaism, and he kept stark, and he said, I'm going to be stark. So now you all of a sudden, now you're showing up and you're like, teach me the whole Torah. So he says, drop this whole 1 foot business. V'ahavta l'recha kamocha. You also put aside your doubts and your struggles and be stark so you can help another Jew somewhere. Because we're all mamish connected. So exactly. So now Rabbi Nachman and Gimel is going to start to be discussing is purpose of a good day and bad day. Beyom tov yeh betov. K'mo shekatuv. Let's look at the pasuk. Beyom tov yeh betov. On a good day, be with the good. Uveyom ra'ah re'eh. And on a bad day, look. It's a pasuk from Mishlei.
But don't be with it. Just look. Wow.
It says look. Let's see what it says. Let's try to understand this. Hainu, what does this mean? Rabbeinu says, that on a bad day a person has to look very well. That what? Because you're going to find goodness on that day. Hainu, Torah. You're going to find Torah. You're going to find elokus, godliness, wherever you are. By the way, so Yosef Karduner last night said it's very interesting. Yeah, he said it says Beyom Tova Yeh Betov, or Beyom Rare. It says on a good day be with the good, on a bad day look. So he says on a bad day look. I understand because Rabbeinu says look for the good. But what does it mean on a good day be with the good? It's of course you're going to be with the good. You know, like you get hooked up. You get like $1 million. Like you're gonna be happy. Of course, you're gonna be with the good.
Be in the moment. Be in the moment.
So he said yes. So he said a lot of times in these days, unfortunately, people like they're mamish there. They're blessed with so many good things, and like they're thinking, thinking about something else and what's missing and what's that and what's and they're mamish. They're not with the good at the moment.
No, but still, shouldn't be.
Beyond Tovat, be with the good. Appreciate the good that you have in your life.
Right.
Talk about it. Thank Hashem about it.
I'll stay with you.
We take it for granted, mamish. My friend told me, he says, my uncle's not religious,
That's another
right? He said he came to work the other day, and his uncle was like, out of nowhere, he was like, I thank Hashem. He said, I thank Hashem that I have legs today. Like in his own words. Like he's mamish not from, but he's like, my friend asked me, when's the last time you thanked really, sincerely? Not just like Baruch Atah Hashem, but like you actually spoke about it. Like thank you, I have functional legs, I have toes, I have feet.
That's what it means.
You know what I mean? Like you spent a few minutes, you mamish like recognize. So on a good day, be with the good, and on a bad day, look, because you'll find the good.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
A little bit off. It's in the topic, but a little deeper. How to focus on that with complete clarity? Meaning, because today I feel like society is such that we're constantly on the next thing. So even when you're trying to focus on something, it's like automatically something else is gonna pop in your head.
I think you have to maybe try.
Meditate on it.
Meditation helps. Meditation is a practice to like get your mind to think only about one thing.
Training.
I remember even like there was a tekufa where I wasn't so like, I was like going into like, fortunately I was like going into other religions and asking questions and this, that, and I came across a lot of like monks and those types of chevra. And like I told them, I'm like, what's the way to do it in the morning? Like, what do you? And he's like, get up at the sunrise. He's like, sit down, clear your mind of everything. And he's like, and just think about, and then all of a sudden they started talking like in Hindu together. Like, and they looked at me, they're like, Moses. And then I'm like, okay, no, don't worry, Hashem. Like, and they're like, oh, okay. They're like, what God does he?
They were trying to respect you.
I'm wearing kippah. Yes, like, think about Moses. But anyway,
kippah when you ask them?
Yeah.
How do you meditate? Honest question.
Yeah.
No,
I'm
so
gonna ask them.
first of all, I know like it says that like also like you're not supposed to chas v'shalom learn so much from like goyish things, but like there are just some practices of just pure meditation without any like philosophy involved.
Right.
There's all these like apps now out there that can like you could just like take
that's different from
5
Hindu.
minutes and just
But no,
it's different.
it's not the
different.
same.
No, it's not the
It's not the
same.
same.
No.
No point of meditation is getting away from your phone.
It's not only that; it's to calm your mind. Your mind is like a
Then
muscle; it's
your phone
constantly doing things.
Taking your phone is
So you want
what
to take a
happens.
moment to just and put one thing in there. That's like exercising your mind. Your mind hasn't done that because it's constantly going from 50 things to 50 things. So in order to stop your mind from being pre-programmed to just move from one thing to another, to practice one thing at a time, like and also like by learning. Like let's say you take like Aleph or Bet, what we learned tonight, and you just sit and look at it. You don't go to Gimel, you don't go to Dal, you just think about it. You think one concept in Torah. All the Rabbanim, all the Tzaddikim do this. They take concepts in Torah and they just ponder about it. One thing. And then within that thing, you could make many chidushim. You could see a lot of things. The more you can focus on one thing intentfully, the more you can see that it has so many pathways to other things.
Is it possible to combo hippo and meditation? Or not really?
Yeah, depending on how much time you're given,
Maybe
you
the
could.
meditation will bring you to hit bone.
Rebbe Hitzbodedut is actually just it's also just speaking. It's like outpouring of your soul. It's bringing it into. You could potentially talk about it at the same time while you're talking about it. All of a sudden you get like machshavot of like, I need to do this, I need to do that. That's also part of it, yeah.
I found doing
But
it
like
in
some
cars,
people prefer what he's talking about is just a practice of
Yeah.
clearing your mind and
You
having
get-
just one thing. You could do that with it too by let's say chanting, like Einod Milvado, or Rabbeinu says like saying Rabbanu Shalom over and over again, like until it becomes really focused.
That's the problem.
Our minds are working like this today in 2023. That's
It's
where our
killing
mind
our
works.
memory. It's killing our focus.
Rahman, it's not.
It's not killing your memory.
Generation.
It's killing your focus.
Memory, which plays into
There
memory.
you should answer.
Because you're constantly
So
going
you're
different
even
things.
reading a simple book.
You're not retaining the information.
Your short-term memory.
You're not retaining it as well.
Yeah. Whatever that you need to.
Meditating on one thing.
I actually sometimes in my head, if I'm going through like 10 things in like let's say a span of 5 minutes, or let's say 5 things in the span of 5
You
minutes.
have a lot of skills.
Not really. I'm just retarded.
I go through like
So
1,000 things in
now,
1 second.
a second later, I'll forget what was in my mind because it's like I'm just
Yeah,
going
next,
yeah.
next.
So I was just thinking for like literally 2 seconds ago, like
It's annoying, right?
yeah, and then I have to figure it out.
Right.
So it's not normal.
Technology has made it such that we don't have to remember anything.
Why don't we just get rid of it?
Anytime it comes to learning something new, I'll just take a picture of
I
it.
just got rid of
Remember
Instagram.
something? I'll take a picture of it. I don't need to remember
Learn
it.
about
I'll
it.
tell you. If it wasn't for Torah, gentlemen, like I think
We'll be fine.
totally
We- no,
lost.
we-
Like,
we-
no, because the
Look at
only
the
way,
God.
the only way really to get Torah, also especially Likutei Moharan, is that you take one thing at a time and you focus on it. Like otherwise, you won't be able to. Like people won't have patience. Like you see, like not everyone has the patience to like sit through like Likutei Moharan and to understand what Rabbi is saying. It needs a certain ability to focus. To clear your mind
It's your
into.
mindset.
Yeah,
It's gotta absorb also.
you know.
Shul helps. Help me.
Of course. All right, let's do a little bit more, and then we'll.
Mashiach, I just wanna give-
It says-
Mashiach, I just want to give a little shout out to you that you're the one who really made that clear. Like, at first I was like, yo, why is this guy like learning like Rebbe Nachmans so slowly and dissecting each
Yeah.
word? And now
You
like,
see
I mamish got to
Yes,
appreciate it
yes,
because
yes.
Rebbe Nachman's so deep, and these concepts are so like
fundamental.
it's that
Layered.
you want to just you know what I mean?
They're layered.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Learn that in 30
you
minutes.
have to learn it this way.
In the beginning,
Otherwise,
I
it's like
thought it was Gemara. I thought it was like.
It is like Gemara, also, but the Gemara also, like if you learn a biyun, you have to, take it slow. What is it saying? V'hayomim nikroim midot. Days, we know they're called midot. Days are called midot. How do we know this? We need a proof from a pasuk, like the Gemara says. Mehechatesi. Where do you get it from? So Gemara, it says, K'moshe katuv, umidat yamai. The measures of my days, meaning days are measures. They're midot. They're connected to characteristics. And also we know hamidot hem Torah. We know the midot is Torah. Ki oraita kulo hem midot of Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because the Torah is all midot of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ki haTorah medaberet mahava v'yira. It's all characteristics of Hashem. Love, fear, or shar midot. Uva bara Kadosh Baruch Hu almin. And with this, Hashem created the worlds. So here in these 4 lines, Rabbi said a lot right now.
Yeah.
He just showed us that you should know a day, an entity of a day, is connected to the characteristics of Hashem, because that's where all the measures come from, and it's also connected to Torah, because Torah is all the midot. That's where Hashem started all the midot. From the blueprint of all of creation was the Torah, right? Hashem created the Torah, and then He created the world. All of the measures and everything that's contained in the world. Let's say, like the Balatani said. They asked the Balatani before he passed away, like, what do you see? He says, I don't see physical things anymore. I see the letters that are contained within them. Like this table has the letters Shulchan, that's keeping it in existence. This chair has Kiseh. That's what's happening. It's keeping it around. Otherwise, if you take those letters out, it'll just return back to nothingness.
Is he like saying that to teach us something,
Matrix.
or did he mamish
Matrix.
it?
No, he said he sees that. Like before he went, he was like, before he passed away, he came to a level that he just stopped seeing the physical things.
to look a
After
lot,
a while.
Mashiach, a lot of Hebrew letters I was reading I have a book at home, I think it's written by the Bible, it's called Letters of Light. A lot of the letters were structured to like connotate a house, for example, like by the nun is long, the hay is like an open
Yeah,
door.
Kabbalah speaks about the reasons for why
Yeah.
this letter's shaped this way and why that's shaped that way, and the ramifications, what that does in the world. It's unbelievable.
Like when Hashem told Adam to name all the animals, with the animals, or like the Shemesh, like you see.
Yeah.
There was a Ruach HaKodesh. There was a Ruach HaKodesh that was
Hashem
taking
created
place.
the
Also,
world
when
with
parents
light.
name their kids, it's not necessarily a conscious Ruach HaKodesh. Maybe Adam Rishon was on that level, yes, but like otherwise, it's like a subconscious Ruach HaKodesh. Like somebody came to the Ger Rebbe and said that, like, Rebbe, we want to name our kid. Can you please name our kid? So then the Ger Rebbe was like, You know, it says parents are given one of the few times in their life that they're given Ruach HaKodesh. It's when they're naming their baby. He's like, you're getting Ruach. He's like, why do you want me to take that away from you? You know, like you take it away.
Everybody deserves to do that.
We learned that from Leah.
No, his parents, you know, like they're given it.
We learned that from Leah. She named Reuven Re'ubeni. She was telling Hashem, look at my son compared to my father-in-law's firstborn. Look at my firstborn. Esau versus Reuven. And that's in the future.
Wow.
Father-in-law's firstborn.
Yeah, Esau was
a brother.
killer. He said, look, Re'ubeni,
Reu,
look at
look.
my son compared to Esau, who was the firstborn of my father-in-law.
Wow.
Yaakov was the firstborn.
No,
No,
Esau
no,
was
Esau.
first.
Yaakov pulled out. It came out first, no?
No, he pulled the
Yeah, he
heel.
pulled the Akev.
That's why he's called Yaakov. And then he
Esau
took the
had it.
firstborn
Yeah,
right
took
back.
it.
Yeah.
No, I said in terms of consideration, it was said, okay.
Right.
And there's another deeper shot.
Yeah, no, spiritually, yeah. So he says, okay, so again, so days, characteristics, midot, and Torah, they're all bound together. Kemo shekatuv, it says, ve'yeh etzlo emon, al tikre emon, ela uman. Don't that it was by him like that that Hashem Kivyochel was like a nurse, like a nurturer, and it says al tikre amon. Don't read it like nurture, ella uman, like a professional. It's also the letters of uman. Also, va'otiot Torah mechayin et kol davar v'davar. The letters of Torah, it's what's giving life to every single thing, object in this world, and every situation in the world. Ella kol masha madrega hilamata. Again, the condition is whatever's on a lower level. Shama otiot Torah betzimtzum yoter mimashayu. The letters of Torah are just more constricted than when it's on a higher level. Madrega liona. Ve'enam meirim kol kach kamol amala. They're not shining as much as when they're on a higher level. But madrega liona kedei shelo lashbia or v'chiyut yoter mara'oi. In order that there shouldn't be too much light than what's befitting. Nimtza. So we find. Afilu, we're in the middle of Gimel. Afilu b'medora klipot, even in the realm of the klipot of impurity, hainu b'meira, in the days that are bad, the bad days, the days you're just like, wow, it's like I can't believe it, what's happening, you know?
So his definition of bad is not just like bad things are going on. That means you're in a bad place.
Right, yes,
That's what he means by
spiritually,
bad.
physically, God forbid, yes, whatever the scenario is.
Asphos.
Yeah, God forbid, that's very bad.
That's people?
Extremely bad, yes. That's the one of the biggest sadness. Sorry, the word atzut is sadness, depression. Depression, Rabbeinu holds, is one of the heaviest levels of impurity out there.
Really?
Yeah,
Connected
of
to
course.
people.
Connects it to death, because it says that on the day that the Nachash brought death to mankind, sadness and depression came to mankind. The Zohar says so. Sadness and depression is like synonymous to death. That's why if somebody's clinically depressed, Rahman al-Itzlan, like they don't feel like getting out of bed, they don't feel like dealing with anything. It's connected to mita.
Does chemical imbalance is it differentiated?
No, that could be that's something else. I've heard Rabbanim refer to that as differently, but nevertheless, a person can affect the chemicals within themselves too, like we've seen just from positive thinking and working on themselves. And there's a lot of natural ways these days to try to lift up your spirits, especially hitzbodedut and speaking to Hashem. And really, that's the real ultimate joy of going into all those places that's somewhat dark inside of yourself or your own life, and bringing that out and dealing with it and forbrenging with it, and there's also a lot of other things people do, like ice plunges and this, that, and all these wild things. They're saying that's it helps with moods and things.
Ice cream.
Movement creates.
Of course,
movement.
yeah. Oh, that Rebbe Nachmans is also for sure a good dance, a rikud,
whatever is your thing that you connect with, if you have an instrument or something,
that too, yeah.
Well, I just wanted to make the distinction that.
Really, the shtut, he says sometimes you have to be silly in order to be b'simcha.
No, it was originally said the may ra. I thought it could just be a person's having a bad day. It doesn't mean necessarily attached to klipa.
No, it means attached to klipa, situation, bad, yeah. Hainu b'mei ra, Shehem midot ra'ot. So that could be also bad characteristics. Ulashonot ha'akum. That could also mean the languages of the nations, the influences of the nations. But you should know, even there, Sham yacholim limtzo otiyot Torah. You could find letters of Torah there too. Doesn't mean put yourself there necessarily.
Oh.
Right? It doesn't mean like, oh, like I'm gonna go to like Vegas now to like redeem the letters of Torah. You know, like
That's Chabad.
you know, I don't know what that is, but yeah, you know, like you know, it doesn't mean you have to do it, but if you found that situation, you have to remember this.
Yeah.
Because this is everywhere. This is mamish. Even if you're like mamish, let's say with a friend and you're over somewhere and you're getting a drink. It's like when you're drinking a beverage, instead of just thinking gashmiut of just quenching your thirst, if you think one thought of kavanah, that Hashem, like the energy of this beverage, should help me be a Jew, should help me serve you, that all the sparks within that beverage are now elevating into kedusha. This is all in Tanya, right, guys?
Yeah.
The second chapter already speaks about this stuff, like the raising of sparks. Okay, aval machmad ribuy elavushim, but because there's so many garments, v'godel tzimtzum, einam nitzroim kol kach, right? Einam nitzroim otiyot Torah. You can't see the letters of Torah. Hainu yemei tov, the good days, because it's all covered up. Alidei yemei ra, because the bad days, the choshech, the darkness is shorel them, is covering them. But now listen to this. So what do you do? Aval mi shekofe et yitzro, Hashem sheginazakas. That someone that forces his yetzer hara. Hainu hayamei ra, meaning what does it mean? He forces his yetzer hara. He forces the bad days. Hainu hamidot ra'ot, the bad characteristics. Meaning, like, I believe what he's saying is that he's searching to find the good within the bad. He's searching to find balance within himself. To find goodness within himself, to give hope within himself, within all these things. Azai, then what happens? Hara nitzbalbel legamri. The evil gets mad, confused. Neged yemei atov shebehem. Corresponding to the good days that you're finding within them. Azai otiot boltot. Then the letters of Torah start to shine. They start to protrude. Venitraim umeirim beyoter. They start to become more visual. They start to shine. The letters that were hiding there. Ki mitchila lo hayu meirim kol kach, because initially the letters weren't shining so much. Ki lo kiblu or milamala, because they didn't receive the light from above. Kidei shelo yikablo emei arayoter mikidei chiyuta, in order that the bad days shouldn't have more energy than what it deserves. V'achshav shenitzbata l'ra, but now that you took away the evil, you took away the garments. V'nishare motiyot Torah levad. Now the letters of Torah are there by itself. Azai mikablin or rav milamala. Now it can receive tremendous light from above. Nimtza, so we find Shazeh Shekofet Yitzro, this guy that forces his yetzer hara, Hainu Shekofet Yemei Hara, he forces the bad days. He's like, there's got to be good in this. Whatever situation, mamish, the worst. I remember once, dude, I was coming back from Uman, and like back then, this was like I don't know, bro, this was like 16, 17 years ago, you know. Like, I went to an airport in Odessa. Habibi was the most, like, cracked out airport you could imagine. It was mamish, like, you know, these guards with the pointy hats, you know, like, come out like this. And, like, you know, like, well, everything was just, like, so dark and so gloomy. And, you know, like, and, like, I go there and, like, you know, all of a sudden, like, I show my ticket or and they're like, no. They're like, you're here on the wrong day. Something happened, was like my travel agent was supposed to book it on that day, he booked it on the next day. I realized I'm like 6 hours away from Uman.
Wow.
And I'm here on the wrong day.
You guys sleep over, right?
And then I had to just stay in the airport, like, you know what, I'm like, how am I gonna survive in this godforsaken, dude, you know what I did? You know those cup soups, right? You have to fill it up with water. So I said, I have a cup of soup. Let me just go to the.
I did the same thing.
Yeah. So I went up to one of this Ukrainian lady that was working back there. I go up to them. I'm like, can I just please have some hot water? And she's like, she's this whole like schmooze, and then she's like, $1. I'm like, just for water? And back then, You should know, like, it was a lot. $1 was like, for them was like $100. It was mom was like, So I'm like, and I heard you're not supposed to, just keep, otherwise they're gonna. Anyway, so I was like, you know what? Fine, I'll do it. I gave $1. She fills the soup halfway. With the because and it has all that salt and stuff. You can't like possibly. I'm like, please. I'm like, can you just please fill it up? She's like, I'm like, what? I'm like, it was an evil place. You know what I mean? It was like, where's the tov? It's this yamei hara. You know what I'm saying? It's such a raz. And then I remember I sat down on the side, and then like people are getting on the flight, and I'm just like I sat down on the floor. I'm saying Tehillim. I asked some guy who was trying to like run people on the flights and this that. So I'm like, is there any chance like you could just like get me on this flight? He's like, sit down. I'm like, I sit down on the floor. I'm like saying Tehillim, and all of a sudden I'm telling you, this never happened in history. All of a sudden, like 5 minutes later, like after everyone gets on, he's like, he looks around like this. He's like, go, just go.
Wow.
No way.
Go! Like, what? Like, all I heard was a name.
Without a ticket?
Because I sat down, I'm saying, you know what, Hashem? I sat there when I was sitting down, I was like, you know what, Hashem, it's okay.
Without a
It's
ticket?
all good. Without the tickets. I was like, it's
got it without a
okay.
ticket?
It's okay. I had a ticket for the next day. I don't know. I just.
That never happened in history.
Yeah,
How long
but once you find Hashem, once you have to come to that point that you're like, you know what, it doesn't make a difference.
Did he give you a seat?
No, wait, do you understand what I'm saying? The point is
What happened to your seat?
you gotta hit a point. You gotta reach a point that it doesn't make a difference for you. You gotta be like, you know what, Hashem, I don't doubt you. It's all good. Like, it's like the Yetzirah is like, oh, what are you gonna do? Look, you're stuck in Ukraine. You have to stay in this God. He's trying to make you depressed, and you're like, you know what? It's all for the best. I love you, Hashem. It's all good. I don't care. And then all of a sudden, the gates open up. The chef opens up. It's a big lesson for us. Hashem should be mezakeh us. Should be strong and stark. And we should take these lessons to heart, and we should see Mashiach Tzidkenu. Amen.
Amen.
Mitzvah gedolah liyad b'simcha, liyad b'simcha, b'simcha amen. Mitzvah gedolah liyad b'simcha, liyad b'simcha, b'simcha amen. Al Yidei HaTorah. What?
As
You know what? Before we get this, one more nigga. I just want to.
Wacht, gewoon, wacht.
Yeah.